There is a coffee can sitting on a shelf in my workshop. Inside it is $4 of steel wool and a bottle of peppermint oil from the grocery store. That coffee can has saved me more money than any single tool I own. Because 20 years ago I stopped paying exterminators, and I have not seen a mouse inside my house since the winter of 2004. Most people think mice are a trapping problem. You see droppings, you set a trap, you catch one, you feel better. 2 weeks later the droppings are back, so you call someone, and that someone charges you $40 to $80 a month, every month, forever. Because they are not solving the problem either. They are managing it, and management is a subscription business, is what nobody tells you. Mice are not a catching problem. They are an entry problem and a food problem. If you have mice, it means two things are true. First, there is a hole somewhere that a pencil will fit through. Second, there is something to eat when they get inside. Fix those two things, and you will never see another mouse. Ignore them and you can fill your house with traps and poison, and you will still have mice next winter. I learned this from a man named Eli Hirschberger. Eli ran a crew I worked with for 11 years. He grew up on a dairy farm in Holmes County. No electricity, no running water, barns older than this country. And on a farm like that, mice are not a nuisance. They are a threat. A mouse in the grain crib costs you feed. A mouse in the barn can spook a horse. A nest in the hayloft is a fire waiting to happen. So Amish farmers do not call anyone. They build their buildings right the first time, and then they defend the perimeter. Eli used to say the English spend all their time catching mice that should never have gotten in. And he was right. Let me show you what that means in practice. A mouse does not need a mouse-sized hole. It needs a hole the width of a pencil. If you can slide a number 2 pencil into a gap, a mouse can flatten its skull and squeeze through. They have collapsible rib cages. The only hard parts on a mouse are its teeth and the back of its head. Everything else compresses. So the first job is to walk your house. And I mean every inch of the foundation, every place a pipe comes through, every dryer, vent, every gap where the siding meets the concrete. You are looking for 3 things: cracks in the foundation wider than a 1/4 inch, gaps around utility lines, and any opening at all where wood meets concrete, because that joint shifts every season and it never stays sealed. When you find a gap, you do not caulk it. Mice chew through caulk in about 4 days. You stuff it with steel wool first, then you cover the steel wool with caulk or foam. The steel wool is the actual barrier. The caulk is just there to hold it in place and keep the weather out. A mouse will not chew steel. It hurts. They try once, they taste blood, they go somewhere else. Steel wool costs about $3 for a bag that will seal 20 holes. You want the coarse kind, not the soapy pads you use on dishes. Any hardware store will have it in the paint section, and you want a caulk gun and a tube of exterior caulk, another $4. That is $7 to seal your whole foundation. But steel wool only works if the hole is small enough to pack. Anything bigger than a 1/4, you need hardware cloth. That is a wire mesh, 1/4 inch grid, galvanized so it will not rust. It comes in rolls, about $12 for a piece big enough to cover a dryer vent or a foundation vent. You cut it with tin snips. You fold the edges so nothing sharp is sticking out, and you screw it down with stainless screws so the fasteners do not rot out in 3 years. Dryer vents are the worst. Most of them have a plastic flapper that is supposed to close when the dryer is off, but the flapper gets stuck open with lint, or it warps, or it just breaks, and now you have a 4-inch heated tunnel straight into your house. Mice love it. So you pull the old vent cover off, you screw a hardware cloth screen over the opening on the outside, and you put the cover back on. The mesh stops the mice, the flapper stops the weather, and your dryer still vents fine, because the holes in the mesh are big enough for air, but too small for anything living. I did this on my house in 2004. I have not touched it since. The screen is still there. No rust, no holes, no mice. Now you are not going to seal everything. There are places you cannot reach, or places where sealing would cause a problem. Crawl space vents need to stay open for airflow. Gaps under doors need to let the door swing. So those spots, you defend with deterrence. Mice navigate by smell. They follow scent trails laid down by other mice, and they avoid anything that smells like danger. Peppermint oil smells like danger. I do not know why. Maybe it is too strong and it hides the food smells they are tracking. Maybe it burns their nose. But they do not like it. You buy a bottle of pure peppermint essential oil, not the extract you use for baking. The oil. It costs about $8 at any health food store or online. You soak cotton balls in it, and you put those cotton balls in the places you cannot seal. Behind the washing machine where the hoses come through. Under the sink where the pipes drop down. In the corners of the garage where the door does not quite meet the floor. You refresh them once a month. That is it. One bottle lasts me a year. The other thing that works is ammonia. Ammonia smells like predator urine. To a mouse, that means something big and hungry is nearby. So you take a shallow dish, you pour an inch of ammonia in it, and you put it in the crawl space or the attic, or wherever you think they are coming from. You do not need much. The smell spreads. Just do not put it anywhere a pet or a child can reach it, because ammonia will burn skin and eyes if you splash it. I use ammonia in my shed, because the shed has gaps I am not going to fix. It is not a living space, and I am not going to rebuild it for the sake of keeping mice out of a bag of bird seed. So twice a year, spring and fall, I put a dish of ammonia on the floor in the back corner. I have not seen a dropping in that shed since I started. Now, let's say you did all of that, and you still see evidence. Droppings in the cabinet under the sink, a chewed bag of rice. It happens, because no house is perfect, and if you live anywhere near a field or a woods, the pressure never stops. There are always more mice. That is when you trap. But you do not trap randomly. You trap along the runways. Mice do not wander. They run the same paths every night, tight against the wall where they feel safe. If you see droppings, you are looking at a runway. So you do not put the trap in the middle of the floor. You put it perpendicular to the wall, with the trigger end touching the baseboard. The mouse is already running that line. It hits the trap at speed. It is over in a fraction of a second. The best trap is the old wire snap trap. Not the plastic ones, not the live catch boxes, not the glue boards. The wire snap trap costs about $1. It works every time, and it kills instantly if you set it right. You bait it with a dab of peanut butter, not cheese. Cheese dries out and falls off. Peanut butter sticks, and the mouse has to work the trigger to get it. Here is the part nobody tells you. Tie a short piece of thread or dental floss to the trigger and press the peanut butter over it. The thread tangles in the mouse's teeth when it tries to lick the bait off. It pulls. The trap fires. I learned that from Eli, and I have never had a trap go off empty since. You do not need 50 traps. You need 6, placed smart. 2 under the kitchen sink, 2 behind the stove, 1 in the basement near the water heater, 1 in the garage near the door. Check them every morning for a week. After that, check them once a week. Most people will catch everything in the first 72 hours, because most infestations are not infestations. They are one pregnant female and her first litter. You catch 6 mice, and then nothing, and you think you got lucky. You did not get lucky. You got all of them. If you are still catching mice after 2 weeks, you missed a hole. Go back and walk the foundation again. Before we go any further, I want to mention something. This exact system, every step you just watched, is Skill 36 in a book I put together called the AMISH Playbook, alongside 35 more skills like it. Pest control, heating, food preservation, water harvesting. Every skill has the exact materials, the exact costs, and what it saves you every single year. And here is my favorite part. Every new skill I teach on this channel gets added to your copy at no charge. You buy it once, and it grows for life. It costs less than a single service call, and the link is sitting right below this video. All right, back to work. Now let me tell you what not to do, because the stores are full of things that do not work, and some that make the problem worse. Glue boards. You have seen them. Flat trays coated with adhesive. The mouse steps on it, gets stuck, panics and dies slowly of exhaustion or dehydration over the next 10 hours. It is cruel. It is loud if the trap is somewhere you can hear it, and it does not even work better than a snap trap. Sometimes the mouse pulls free, and now you have a half-dead animal dragging a glue board under your refrigerator. I will not use them. Eli would not use them. If you are going to kill something, kill it fast. Poison bait. This is what the exterminators use, and it is the worst option for 4 reasons. First, the mouse eats the poison and then goes back into your wall to die. Now you have a dead animal rotting somewhere you cannot reach, and the smell lasts 2 weeks. Second, poison does not work instantly. The mouse keeps eating, keeps moving, keeps breeding for 3 or 4 days before it dies. So you are not stopping the problem any faster. Third, if you have a dog or a cat or an owl living in your barn, and that animal eats the poisoned mouse, now the poison is in them. That is called secondary poisoning, and it kills more barn cats and raptors than anyone wants to admit. Fourth, mice are not stupid. If one mouse eats the bait and dies, the others smell death on that bait station, and they avoid it. You have just trained them to be poison-resistant. The Amish do not use poison, not because of religion, because it does not work as well as doing it right. Ultrasonic plug-in repellents. These are little devices you plug into an outlet, and they supposedly emit a high-frequency sound that drives mice away. They do not work. There are a dozen studies on this. Mice habituate to the sound in less than a week. I have seen droppings on top of the ultrasonic unit itself. Save your $30. Cats. Everyone says, get a cat. And yes, a good barn cat will kill mice. But a cat is not a solution to an infestation inside your house, because the cat cannot get into the walls where the nest is. And most house cats are fed enough that they do not hunt seriously. They will play with a mouse if they see one, but they are not patrolling. A barn cat that lives outside, eats what it kills, and has territory to defend. That cat will keep the mouse population down in the barn and the sheds, but it will not fix your kitchen. The real answer is our owls. A barn owl eats about 3 mice a night. A family of barn owls will clear a 5-acre property. But you cannot buy an owl, and you cannot make one show up. All you can do is put up a nest box and hope. Eli's grandfather had a barn owl that lived in the hayloft for 9 years. He said they never had mice in the grain after that bird moved in. But that is luck, not a system. So here is the system. Steel wool and hardware cloth on every gap. Peppermint oil in the places you cannot seal. Snap traps on the runways. Check the traps. Reset them. Check again. Do that once and you are done for years. Now let's talk about cost, because this is where it gets insulting. A quarterly pest control contract for mice costs about $40 to $60 a month. That is $480 to $720 a year. And you are paying that forever, because they are not sealing your house. They are putting poison in your crawl space every 90 days and hoping you do not notice that the problem never actually ends. The supply houses that sell to exterminators have known about Exclusion for 40 years. It is in their training manuals. But Exclusion is a one-time job. You do not get to bill for it every quarter. So they do not sell it. They sell service contracts. You can do the whole job yourself for about $25. $3 for steel wool, $4 for caulk, $12 for a roll of hardware cloth, $8 for peppermint oil, 6 snap traps at $1 each. That is $33 if I am adding right, and I round it up. You will spend one Saturday afternoon walking your foundation, sealing holes, and setting traps, and then you are done. That is the difference. Their way is $600 a year forever. Your way is $30 once. You are not paying for materials. You are paying for the fact that they did not teach you this in school, and most people do not know someone who grew up doing it themselves. Let me show you what that looks like in practice. My neighbor 2 doors down called me last fall. She had mice in the basement. She had been paying OR-KIN for 2 years, $70 a month, and she still had droppings by the water heater. I walked her foundation with a flashlight. I found 4 gaps. One where the gas line came through. One where the AC line set had pulled away from the siding. 2 cracks in the foundation itself, each one about the width of my thumb. We stuffed all 4 with steel wool, caulked over it, and put hardware cloth over the AC penetration because it was too big to pack tight. Took us 40 minutes. Cost her $12 in materials because she already had caulk. I set 6 traps along the basement wall. She caught 3 mice in 2 days. Nothing after that. She canceled OR-KIN the next week. That was 13 months ago. She has not seen a mouse since. That is what I mean when I say this is not complicated. It is just not profitable to teach. Now there is one more thing I want you to understand, and it is bigger than mice. Mice are part of a system. They eat seeds and grain. Owls and snakes and foxes eat mice. If you remove the mice with poison, you are not just killing mice. You are starving everything that depends on them. And those animals, the owls, the hawks, the black snakes that live in your barn, those are the animals that keep the system in balance. The Amish figured this out 150 years ago because they could not afford to break the system. If the barn owl dies, the mice come back twice as thick. If the black snake dies, the copperheads move in because copperheads eat the same food, but they are not as good at it, and now you have a venomous snake in your woodpile instead of a harmless one that was doing you a favor. So the Amish do not poison. They exclude. They trap what gets through, and they leave the rest of the system alone. You do not have to care about owls to see why that matters. You just have to notice that their way works for 100 years without spending $1. And our way costs $600 a year and never actually solves anything. That is the trade-off. You can keep paying someone to manage a problem that should not exist, or you can spend one afternoon fixing it yourself. Here is what I want you to do this weekend. First, buy the materials. Steel wool, caulk, hardware cloth, peppermint oil, 6 snap traps. $30, maybe $35. Any hardware store will have all of it. Second, walk your foundation. Look for gaps, cracks, and anywhere a utility line comes through. Bring a pencil. If the pencil fits, a mouse fits. Third, seal what you find. Steel wool in the gap, caulk over the top. Hardware cloth over anything bigger than a quarter. Peppermint-soaked cotton balls in the places you cannot seal. Fourth, set your traps. Perpendicular to the wall, trigger end against the baseboard, peanut butter on the trigger with a thread tied through it. 2 under the kitchen sink, 2 behind the stove, 1 in the basement, 1 in the garage. 5th, check the traps every morning for a week. After that, once a week. That is your weekend. About $30 in materials, 4 hours of work, and you will not see another mouse. Next time, I'm going to show you what the Amish do about a freezing heating bill, which involves a roll of tape, a candle, and 1 afternoon. You would never guess the trick. If today saved you money, the book will pay for itself by Sunday. The AMISH Playbook holds 36 skills and counting. Today's mouse-proofing system is Skill 36, pest and home, heat and energy, food preservation, water harvesting, each with the exact materials, the exact costs, the time it takes, and what it saves you every year, plus a season-by-season action plan to work through. And every new skill I teach on this channel gets added to your copy at no charge. You buy it once and it grows for life. It costs less than 1 service call, and the link is sitting right below this video. Now tell me in the comments where you live and what you're dealing with at your place. I read every one of them, and the questions people ask down there usually become the next video. If this saved you money today, hit subscribe. There's a new skill every Sunday morning at 7 Eastern. The people who built this country with their hands knew things we are only just starting to remember. I'll see you Sunday.